welcome to the Dr. Mudgil podcast. This is episode 126. We are in the middle of April here. Tax season is behind us, and it's cold and rainy here in New York. It was really nice in the earlier part of the week. I mean, it was like really beautiful and almost like hot, not a complaining kind of way, but it was just nice and warm. And then it just kind of turned on a dime. It's cold and rainy. But, they say those April showers bring May flowers, so we are ready for it. The trees are starting to bloom. It's a beautiful time of the year, and I'm excited for it to get a little bit warmer out. I think we all are here in the Northeast. Not that it's been a terrible winter. It's actually been a very mild winter, but I still prefer the warmth. So this podcast is kind of like a hashtag thoughts of the week style podcast. The idea for this podcast started percolating last week, over the weekend actually, on Sunday. And I was going to share a little story with you guys and just kind of like get into the contents of the podcast. Before I do that though, let's go Knicks. We've got a big playoff game on Saturday. Knicks first round playoffs, number 2 seed. So very excited as a Knicks fan. I think all of us are so pumped as Knicks fans. It's going to be an amazing run. Feeling good about the team. We're going to be meeting the Sixers in the first round, and it should be a good one. So anyways, staying on that basketball theme, last weekend, my little guy, both my sons are very big basketball players, and my little guy had a tournament in northern Westchester. It was like a town I never even heard of. It's very, very far. It was like an hour and a half drive up. And he had 2 games on Saturday and then a game on Sunday morning. And then, depending on how the tournament went, there was a championship game was on Sunday afternoon. So, the first 3 games were great games. We won all 3 games. We made it to the championship game. And the team that we played in the championship game was a tough team. And we went into overtime, and we actually lost by 2 points in overtime. It was kind of a tough loss. But overall, it was a good weekend, and the team played well. But my little guy, he really takes this stuff to heart, as he should. He's like a fierce competitor, loves his team, loves his coach, loves playing basketball. And, he's young. He's 12 years old. And, he really took the loss to heart, got like very, very emotional. He was very, very upset. And, being a dad, as all the other parents out there, I'm sure know, like each one of your kids needs like different things, when they're getting emotional or going through something. And I know my little guy well enough to know that he needs his space. That's what allows him to kind of get through these moments the best. He doesn't want to talk about it. He just wants to kind of live in his head for a little while and just get his bearings back. But as we were leaving, the whole team, everyone went their separate ways. We all had a long drive back home, and my son, as both of my sons actually, are always like sort of the last ones to leave the court. They have a whole routine after the game. Take their sneakers off and put their sweatpants on, their sweatshirt, take their jersey off. It's a whole big thing. So it takes a little bit of a while. They kind of like lounge around a bit, BS with the other players, talk to the coach a bit. So we were like one of the last folks to leave, and my son was very, very upset. He was very, very emotional about the loss. And we're walking out, and we're walking down the stairs, walking towards our car, and then his coach came out and said, my son's name is Jay. He said, Jay, and he called Jay back over to him. And, I actually captured a picture of this moment. It was just like a really beautiful moment. We'll show it to you. But my son's coach is like a huge, towering, like 6'5". He might be even taller than that guy. And my son is like, 5 feet, if that. I think he's 5 feet. He'll be very upset if I said he was shorter than that. He might even be 5'1". But the coach has his arm around my son, and I take the picture from behind them. And he obviously knew my son was very, very upset. He had some words of encouragement. To be honest with you, like I said, I know what my son needs in a time like that. So it was a very, very, very quiet car ride home. In fact, I was actually listening to the Knicks game, flipping between that and the Masters on the radio because my son, obviously he didn't want to talk to me. He just needed to veg out. He was in the backseat. I think he fell asleep. So I don't know what was said between them, but I know how strongly and how much my son loves his coach. All the players love the coach. All the parents love the coach. His name is Chris. Coach Chris is just like, he's just an awesome coach, awesome guy. Just, good vibes all around. But watching that interaction between coach and my son, it really like made me like, obviously I think Coach is a great guy. I always have thought he was a great guy. And some folks just like have that magic touch with kids. He's like one of those guys that, or one of those folks, that has that. The kids really respond to him, and he has high expectations of the players on his team. He gets very involved in the games, and really kind of gets the players doing the things that they need to do. But he's also very loving. Like he kind of like, he's good cop, bad cop type of. He does it very, very well, in a way that like you just have the kids have it, the parents have it. We all just have like overwhelming love for him. Even when he's like telling the kids something they did wrong, it's always in kind of a loving way. And it's just like a very special talent that he has. And seeing this interaction between him and my son, it made me really think about like why these kids feel so strongly about him. And the truth is, and this is like really applicable to anything, the magic happens behind the scenes. Like Coach has just he has an equity of great karma with all of us, the parents, the kids. And, you don't just get that. You don't just have that. It's something that's built. The magic happens behind the scenes. And, like because Coach has such a strong relationship with each of the kids, whatever he said to my son at that time, I'm sure made my son feel a ton better. He has tremendous respect for his coach. He loves his coach. And, the coach took the time. These coaches are running all over the place. We had a game that from like I think it was from like 9 to 10 o'clock, and then the coach had to go down to the Bronx to coach another team. One of his other teams, he coached like 3 or 4 teams, and he came back up like an hour north for our championship game. And and I'm sure he had somewhere to go after this game. But despite having that crazy schedule, he took a few minutes out to put his arm around my son, console him in this time where he needed somebody. He certainly didn't want to talk to his dad or anybody else. It was something that was just he was personally going through, and I feel like the coach was like the only person who could like get through to him and make him feel better. And the coach took the time to do that, and he wasn't doing it for any other reason than he's just a really good guy, and he's a guy who just loves the kids that he coaches. But the magic happens behind the scenes. I'm sure Coach does stuff like that every day for all his players. After every game, he kind of see who checks out, who needs him, who needs like little encouragement. He'll like send the kids a text, an encouraging text, or it just he's built up so much good karmic equity with the people that are in his life, including my son, including my wife and I love him. All the parents love him. Because the magic happens behind the scenes. It's not just what he's doing on the court. It's what he's doing outside of the games, outside of practice, or during practice, before practice, after practice. All of that, that magic he's created, the love that he's generated from his players and from his players' parents and all that sort of stuff. All of that magic happened behind the scenes. And it had me just thinking about this in general, like. Think about someone who is an amazing musician, someone that you'll watch perform in a concert hall or something like that. You're watching them perform. It's like just a split, few moments in time, or it could be an hour in time or whatever it is. And, it's mesmerizing watching folks, perform at such a high level, or an artist, who's just like, he makes an amazing, beautiful piece of work. But all of that magic that created that, like what you're seeing is magical, but all that magic was created behind the scenes, right? It's like 10,000 plus hours of purposeful practice that goes into creating that magic. Athletes, the same thing, any great basketball player, it's not what you see on the court. It's that foundation of work that they've put in that creates the magic that you're witnessing, practicing your foul shots, working on your handles, working on your conditioning, same thing with like, golf, all of those hours purposefully practicing your short game and your putting and your driving and your iron play, being a great doctor, or being, just doing anything at a very, very high level. The magic that you witness during, in a split second or in a few moments of time, that magic is created behind the scenes, very much like I'm talking about Coach Chris, and then, the magic that he's created in the relationships that he has. All of that it happens behind the scenes. So kind of rambling here, but it was just an observation that I made. It was a really beautiful moment that I was able to, to witness. And, I was just, I was touched. It was like a very, very touching moment that just kind of had me, going in all sorts of tangents about, that magical moment I witnessed, and what made it so magical. Yes, it was the moment itself was magical, but Coach Chris had created these magical relationships over the course of years, and that, my friends, is what it's all about. So with that, I hope you all have a wonderful, restful weekend. I hope you are creating magic behind the scenes as well, and hope you have a just crush and dominate the week ahead of us. Let's get it.